Dr. Ramlachan, thank you for joining us. Your interview on Power Digital was very inspiring. Give us a sense. Give us a sense of based on your training, an overview of the vaccine situation. Should people take any vaccine? Should they accept a particular vaccine, and what are the differences?
Well, at this point in time, in the surge that we're having right now, and if you look at the data today, we're at 9.49 deaths per million, which is one of the highest rates of increase. 1 month ago today, our numbers was 0.02 deaths per million, right? To give you a relation of how fast and how swiftly this has increased. 2 days ago, it was 7 point something. 3 days ago, it was 6 point something. Last week, it was 4 point something, right? So we are literally like this. So at this stage, with the fact being that the only way to stop deaths and severe disease is through vaccination, we have to move towards being vaccinated. The new shipment of Sinopharm is here, I believe. I did not get word, but I am assuming it landed as expected yesterday. It's supposed to come in. And the government has said they are trying to get roll out the Ministry of Health by Saturday. And I would recommend to all listeners to run, not walk, to try to get vaccinated as soon as they can. I at least get on a list so that they'll have the record of when you could get vaccinated. Get an appointment. Try to get vaccinated as soon as you can. Just because it's Sinopharm from China, it doesn't make it any less effective against death and severe disease. And that's really what we're trying to prevent.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because you made a point in the radio this morning about a great comparison between the normal flu vaccine's efficacy and the vaccine with many of these WHO-approved vaccines that really put in perspective for persons listening and looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we hear, oh well, Moderna and Pfizer has 90-something%, and and AstraZeneca. Initially, it was the AstraZeneca story. Nobody wanted AstraZeneca because it only had 70-something% or 60-something. I can't remember now. In the early days of the trials. But if we look at the flu vaccine, the efficacy rate is of 30% is deemed to be a successful combination vaccine. So the relative efficacy is really not the story we're looking for, because we're not trying to stop you from being infected with virus. We're trying to stop you from dying and having severe disease and taxing out the healthcare system. If you at home and you get a virus and you get a little fever and you had to sleep for a couple of days, right, that's best case scenario. If you're fully vaccinated, and you have a breakthrough case, which is very rare, happens 5,000 and something per 78 million or something like that so far. So, but if it does, you're not going to die, right? That is if it is you get your 2 full courses, or if in the case of J&J, one shot. That can protect you to that level. We have literally, the data does not lie. We have a 98 to 100% protection against getting severe disease and death. And the numbers approaching 100% now, because we're getting such large numbers. We have over 1 billion people vaccinated, more than that. I think it's 1.5, almost 2 billion now in the world today. So we have our vaccination programs worldwide. Trinidad is way behind any curve, We're way behind. So, we're not as behind as the African countries who are way behind. They're still working with rates of 0.1% and so on vaccination. We at least got any single digits. We're not in any decimals. So we are crawling towards what we need for herd immunity and neutralizing antibodies being circulated in enough people in the population to stop that spread, number one, i.e. transmissibility, and number two, stop the virus from being able to mutate in new hosts and becoming more and more virulent and infectious.
Why has COVID-19, the Wuhan version and then the variants, been so infectious?
Well, it just happened that way. It's just random mutations that accumulate over time. So I mentioned this morning that viruses' entire role in life entire existence is based on replication. That's it, right? The severe disease and death it causes is just a side effect of its existence in you as the host. Some hosts can tolerate the coronaviruses and not die. The coronaviruses exist in all, about 25 different species, right? So it's not uncommon to have a coronavirus cross the zoonotic barrier, so we speak, and jump from animal to host. Human host. In this case, it probably was the wet markets and that kind of situation, the illegal wildlife trade. And, you know, I always tell people always think that environmental frou-frou, why these people always complaining about lost, you know, habitats, and that nothing to do with me? Yes, it does, right? Because the more we encourage any habitats, the more we encourage illegal hunting. That is where the mixing of the viruses come into play, right? If you look at all the big viruses that we have, HIV came from SIV from chimpanzees, right? Ebola, same thing, came from an animal source. All the flu, the pandemics we've had, and we've had a lot. Spanish flu, we had swine flu, we had avian flu over the years, and even the original SARS in the 2000s, they all jumped that species barrier from animal to human, right? So that is one of the key points that we need to stress. And the way that it mutates is random. However, every now and then, it gets a mutation that allows it to replicate faster, allows it to be transmitted faster, allow it to be able to pass from one person to the other with much greater efficiency, and then also allows it to be more efficacious in terms of how it infects your cells and how it spreads disease in your body. And all that is random. The virus not trying to do that. Is literally just the result of its evolution over a period of times in terms of rapid replication. So millions and millions of viruses is produced in an infected person, millions and millions of copies of its RNA, and is packaged into virus molecules, right? The only way you can control that is block it from actually being infectious. So while it may enter your body, it's not going to spread from cell to cell and create the chaos if you are vaccinated, right? And also it won't replicate with the efficiency if you're vaccinated, and it wouldn't have the chance to accumulate all these mutations that make it more severe, which is what we're seeing with the P1 variant and the B1167 in India and these things. That is literally what happened. They had these huge pools of millions of people in Brazil, millions of people in India unvaccinated, because you know their vaccination rates were dismal, still dismal. When you compare the population, right? I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands or sometimes even a million of people vaccinated, but you're dealing with a country that have basically a billion people. So that's a drop in the bucket, right? It's only 5-6% now, I think. Brazil is much better. If you notice the curve, Brazil's curve looks like this now, while Trinidad's curve looks like this. So right now, this is kind of what today's, I can't share my screen, but this is what today's death rate looks like right now. So Brazil had this peak about a month ago, where it went up to about 14.49 deaths per million. It's now lower than us, seven deaths per million or something like that. And we are at a rate of increase that literally looks like this, right? We are exponential.